Welcome to our series called Levels. And that's exactly what it is, because in this trade, it's all about levels and knowledge. And when you look at manufacturing, it's so multifaceted. There are a million different machines. There are a million different tools. There's all these different types of materials. You have crazy spindles, huge spindles, small spindles, high-speed spindles, low speed. And through all of it, those that have the knowledge and conquer the beast to truly be efficient are the ones that make crazy money. So in this Friday series, we're going to talk about all of it so we all can rise levels together. Today is Friday. Therefore, I am answering questions from last Friday or even the Friday before. So you guys ask questions, I answer the questions. And today, when you're done, go ahead and go in the comment section, put questions and put hard questions, put questions we really have to think about that are difficult. So when we answer them, we all can rise the levels. And today's cool because it's also multifaceted. So we're talking about hard materials. We're talking about machining castings. We have a cool question on heat treating materials. So let's just dive in right now. So first question is, I've only machined aluminum and steel. What is the best way to jump to the next level of hard materials? The price of entry scares me. And I feel you, because I've been exactly where you're at. You know, we started out machining aluminum and machining different parts. But when I started my own company, it was easy to spend other people's money and gain all that knowledge. But once I had my own company and my own machines and I had to go buy my own tools, then all of a sudden things changed a little bit, because you're getting a 1/2-inch end mill for steel and it's like $50, $60. Sometimes now, it's not $50 or $60, it might be $90, it might be $100-something. If you go to a 3/4-inch end mill or a larger end mill, then the price escalates. And if you go into material not understanding the total dynamics and how to actually run it efficiently, you can simply snap that carbide, and that's like taking $100 bills or even a couple $100 bills and throwing it on the ground and like ripping it up, because you just wasted money. And that is when you lose in manufacturing. But there is something that's changed since I started my own shop. When I started, I didn't have anybody to talk to. I had my machinist handbook that gave me the basics. I had my experience from all the different shops and people that I've been around. There wasn't that much high-level technique discussions on the internet at that time. So I started my shop in 2005, but now that's all changed, because now you have a million videos online. So if you actually look up Titans of CNC, you look up titanium. And I think titanium is a great place. If you did aluminum and now you're doing steel, titanium is a good place to start, because titanium is hard. It'll burn your tools up if you actually don't do it the right way. If you have the ingredients to the recipe and you follow the recipe, you will have success and you will be efficient in that. And you will be able to make money quickly. So if you look at our videos, I always show you the tool, I'll show you the surface foot, I'll show you the chip load, I'll show you the depth of cut, and I talk to you a lot about technique. Now, I learned when I would go into the machinist handbook and I look up machining titanium, it gives me the surface foot. In general, you're probably at about 175 surface foot. But then you have to think, what are we doing? Are we drilling? Are we milling with an end mill or a shell mill? Because it all matters and everything's different. So when you look at a part, you start hogging a lot of material away, and then you come in for a finish, you're usually using end mills. But since those days, we've taken that to a huge level. Now, my average surface foot is 400 surface foot. If I take a Harvey 1 TE or a Harvey 3 from Kennametal and I just go full slot, I will burn that tool up. I will end up breaking that tool because the surface foot is too high. But if I actually profile and I actually use the entire length of the cutter, and then I have it in a nice rigid holder, I have coolant blasting on it, my level on the coolant is not at like a 6 or 7, it's at a 10 or 12, and it's for hard materials. And my work holding's rigid and everything's rigid. By taking that side cut and taking like a 10% radial, but going deep on that side cut, that's why I can get away with that 400 surface foot. So 604B titanium, 400 surface foot, chip load, per tooth 0.003 up to 0.005, depending on where you're at in the material, depending on the rigidity and the cut. But my sweet spot, just hogging material, is about 0.0043. You guys can double check me, because for years I've done all of these different videos in titanium, and I always have the speeds and feeds. One of the greatest things that any machinist can do out there to actually learn about hard materials, get a notebook, get a tablet, whatever you're comfortable with, and go Titans of CNC and look up material. 316 stainless, titanium, Inconel, Monel, all of it, Hastelloy. Search the tools, listen to the wisdom and the knowledge, look at the speeds and feeds, document. Keep everything in order, from all the different steels, the super alloys, and whether it's plastic or whatever it is. Make sure you document every single thing and look at the type of part, the depth of cut, the approach and strategy. Document the exact tool, because all tools are not created equal. Titan was using the Harvey 1 TE, he was using the Harvey 3, and we just duplicate the process. We don't reinvent the wheel, we just duplicate the process, all right? Now, one of the exciting things also is, like, when you look at titanium, you can charge more per hour. And when I was a young machinist, some of the things that I did was I actually had the customer purchase the material for me, and I would just make a deal. I said, if you purchase the material for me, I'll give you a lower rate for my labor, and your part costs will drop. I'm a small shop, you're a big company, you can get better pricing than I can. You just work those deals. And then you look at the tools, the drills, the face mills, whatever it is, and you make sure you got the right inserts, and you just follow the process. Now, I want to educate you guys also on something. When you look at these tools, a lot of people look at Kennametal and they're priced like heavy because they run twice as long, or 3 times, 4 times, 5 times as long. They run faster, they can make you money. So people with experience know that they can actually use these tools, they'll make up the money, they'll get the parts done in record time, and it just works. But what a lot of younger people in the trade don't know is that there's always discounts attached. So Kennametal will come out, and all big companies will come out, they'll put a list price out there, and you look at the list price and you're like, it's a 1/2 inch end mill that cuts titanium and Inconel and stuff, and it's like $280. And they're like, man, that's a high price. But what they don't know is when you actually have a sales rep come in, or you talk to your distributor, you have the gift of gab, and you sell them on your vision and your loyalty and sell them on all of it, you can get a discount attached to your account. So instead of paying this $270, $280, you might drop that cost by 30%, 40%, 50%, and that's a real thing. Now, when you look at Kennametal, they'll have these crazy tools that are best in class. But Kennametal also has other tools like the Go Mill Pro. So the Go Mill Pro has just come out, and when you look at regular carbide end mills, like just 4-flute carbide end mills, I learned using GAR end mills back in the day. The Go Mill Pro is priced right there. It's priced in an affordable way for people that are just starting out. With that tool, you make that your standard. That tool can cut Inconel, titanium, Monel, all the steels. It is across the board. You can use it for everything. So when you have a 2-piece order, a 5-piece order, or maybe even a 10-piece order, use the Go Mill Pro, and it will murder that material, and the price of entry on that tool is low. Now, when you get a big contract of 100 titanium pieces, or 50 or 30, depending on how much material you have, then you actually quote the job knowing you're going to get the Harvey 1 for full slotting and tight spaces, or the Harvey 3 for profiling, and you quote the price of those end mills with a discount into the price of the job. You're incredibly efficient, you make perfect parts, boom. So the moral of the story, step up, get the best price tooling, they kill it in hard materials. Look at the speeds and feeds that we've taught online, study all of it, and then go quote similar work and duplicate the process that we taught you. And one of the coolest things is, like the Go Mill Pro or the Harveys, You don't have to ask for a discount because I've known there's a lot of people that don't understand it. So we actually put it on our store, our website, at an affordable price for those tools. You order the tools from us, titansofcnc.com. Just go into the store, go to Endmill, boom, and guess what? We use that money to fund free education, boom. All right, I went longer on that one, but that's good because all shops, as they grow, they actually hit that same roadblock right there. And mindset and knowledge is everything. So thank you for that question. Right now is a good time too. Before we go on to the next two questions, go ahead and go in the comments. What questions do you guys have? Like, what questions do you have? Make it hard. So when you get that knowledge, you know that you're gonna rise levels. All right, next question. All right, so the next one is from Nathan BQ9CH. How much material, thousands, do you leave on a material when you take it to get heat treated and stress relieved before the finish? Some materials are different. What are the rules to the question? Now, this is actually a pretty difficult but easy question. Do you have thin-walled parts? Do you have something that could easily warp under pressure? Or do you have a nice solid piece? A nice solid piece in heat treat is probably not gonna hardly move at all. And therefore, if you have 30 thousandths on all surfaces, you'd probably be fine. On a bigger piece, depending on how it'll actually move, if it moves, and you'd be surprised, it doesn't move that much. But if it does move, maybe you need 50 to 100 thousandths to actually do a nice rough and finished process. Now, let me just run down a list of things that are very important. One, you need to make sure that you're aware of all the tolerances on the print and how they're called out. Do they allow for a little movement, or is it to tenths? Is it to like just a few thousandths? That actually matters. Make sure that you understand what your customers are looking for and what the expectations are. Call the heat treat house and ask them, show them the pictures, send them their models, make sure they've signed an NDA, of course, but share the models and the prints and ask them, how much material should I leave on the part? And they'll probably give you a good answer because they've been asked this a million times and they've dealt with a million customers with the same different materials. And the answer will change based on the materials. Now, here's a little information from my own experience. We actually have machined a ton of 17-4 stainless. 17-4 stainless in the A condition is actually pretty easy to machine for a stainless steel. It's magnetic and it's a good material. Now, when you look at a lot of prints, they'll actually call out for an H900 or an H1150 heat treat. And what I've learned is it actually is pretty easy to machine with the right tooling. So if it's a small run, I'll just go to McMaster-Carr because you simply can buy it already in the heat treated condition, or I'll go to a material house and actually have it heat treated, and then I'll machine it in the heat treated state with the right tools and the right inserts. And although the process is a little bit slower, you can actually get through it and create incredible finishes. Rule of thumb, 50 thousandths per side. You come back, two tools, one's roughing, one's finishing. A lot of people talk about nose radiuses and do these big finishes, but the truth is my typical finish pass is of 5 thousandths, sometimes 10 thousandths, and then I'll come back with a spring pass if I feel like there's like some deflection in there. I'll actually go down to like a 5/10 finish pass, and people say, well, it's just rubbing Titan and this and this, but the truth is, no, it actually, you get the material out, you do a few spring passes, you can hit it right to a few tenths and make it absolutely perfect. Boom. Next question is Brian R. 8144. What is the best way to accurately quote machining on castings and various fixturing, rigidity, etc.? Here's the issue with castings. There are no two castings are the same. They vary, and depending on the casting house and the type of casting, you can have like porosity, you can have just excess material, like the whole thing, one can be absolutely perfect and the next one can be horrible. So I've actually done a lot of castings in my career, and what we really come down to is ensuring that we have a good cast, that the casted part is actually good. And then taking a sample and actually putting it through an inspection process to the casting print to make sure that it is what the print says it is, meaning that's what we're getting. Because you can build a fixture and you can have different levels on the fixture, but if the casting goes in and it's cocking and you're having to put spacers and you're having to like mess with it to get it to sit flat so you can clamp the top of it, then it's just going to take a lot of extra time, and therefore you have to quote for that extra time. So if you actually look at the part and you say, okay, I'm going to build this crazy fixture, and I'm going to bring these castings in, I'm going to do these different things, and but there's a variance on something that's, you know, 0 to 50 thousandths, you have to take that knowledge and think, you know what, do I want to just say no to the work, or am I willing to actually have some spacers, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30,000 spacers, that I can simply go and actually maybe put it on an indicator, check it at the beginning so I know what spacer would go with that job, or simply go in, check it, check it, check it, okay, I'm perfect, and then clamp in the machine. That all takes time. So when you quote the job, know what you're in for, know what the process is, understand the casting, understand that the runtime might be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, but the process of actually machining one part might be 30 minutes or 25 minutes because you have to play with the casting and get it to sit perfectly before the machining process. I've seen other castings that repeat absolutely perfect, like to a thousandth, like it is just absolutely dialed. And if you get lucky and you get those types of castings, then hey, it's beautiful. But then put a clause in the contract saying that if you get bad castings, you're gonna get paid for that time or the time to inspect them, and then have a good relationship with the customer so they know that you're basically going to give them a box full of castings that are not machinable back, and it took you 3 hours to actually inspect those. You're gonna get paid for the 3 hours. Ooh, I love this video. I'm excited because when I was a young machinist or a young shop owner, I wish I had these videos to listen to every single day. I would be like absorbing that information right there. So thank you for the questions. Go in the comments, bring your tough questions. Just any question that you thought of. Like, it can be technique, it can be about materials, it can be about business and ownership, it can be about growing your own shop. Put the questions in the comments and I will be reading them and choosing questions for next week's video. Boom, I love you guys. Have a great day. God bless you. I'm out.